Advisory to the Freedmen community: Beauty supply access, wholesale barriers, and economic gatekeeping. The American Freedmen Legal Fund and the Freedmen Reparations Fund Trust are issuing this community advisory after reviewing a public discussion alleging that certain beauty supply industry networks may be blocking Freedmen-owned beauty supply stores, owned by descendants of American slaves, from using wholesale distributors. This advisory is not a final legal finding. It is an educational notice to help Freedmen business owners, Freedmen consumers, and community advocates understand what may be happening, what records should be preserved, and why access to wholesale supply chains matters. Why this matters. Beauty supply stores operate in an industry heavily supported by Freedmen consumers, particularly descendants of American slaves, whose families have historically shaped and funded major parts of the hair care, cosmetics, wig, braid, and beauty product markets. When Freedmen-owned beauty supply businesses, owned by descendants of American slaves, are denied equal access to wholesale distributors, the issue becomes more than ordinary business competition. It raises serious concerns about economic gatekeeping, market exclusion, supplier discrimination, and unequal access to the very industry our community helps sustain. If a store cannot access the same wholesale products, pricing, inventory, or distributor relationships as competitors, that business may be placed at a structural disadvantage before it ever opens its doors. The community concern. The concern raised is that some beauty supply store networks may be pressuring or influencing wholesale distributors not to work with Freedmen-owned beauty supply stores. If true, this type of conduct could create an unfair market barrier. It may limit business ownership, reduce competition, restrict consumer choice, and prevent descendants of American slaves from participating fully in an industry powered by our own community spending. AFLF and FRFT are not making a final accusation against any specific distributor or store without verified evidence. However, the pattern described is serious enough that business owners should begin documenting their experiences carefully. What Freedmen business owners should document. Any Freedmen-owned beauty supply business owned by descendants of American slaves that believes it has been denied access to wholesale distribution should preserve the following: 1. The distributor's name, contact information, and website. 2. The date and method of communication. 3. The name of the person who denied access or refused the account. 4. Any written denial, email, text message, voicemail, invoice refusal, or account rejection. 5. Any statement suggesting the distributor cannot sell to the business because of another store, competitor, territory, or outside pressure. 6. Proof that similarly situated non-Freedmen-owned stores received access. 7. Screenshots of distributor policies, minimum purchase requirements, and account terms. 8. Any pricing differences, product restrictions, account delays, or unusual requirements. 9. Business formation documents, resale certificate, EIN confirmation, tax documents, lease, website, or storefront proof showing the business is legitimate. 10. A written timeline of what happened from first contact to denial. Documentation is essential. A complaint without records is easier to ignore. A complaint with dates, names, emails, and comparisons becomes evidence. Send complaints to Freedmen Nation. Freedmen-owned beauty supply stores, salon owners, distributors, or entrepreneurs who believe they've experienced wholesale denial, distributor blocking, unusual account rejection, pricing discrimination, product restriction, or market exclusion should submit their complaint to Freedmen Nation here. hateview.freednation.org/complaints. The complaint should include a clear timeline, the names of all businesses involved, screenshots, emails, text messages, distributor responses, account denials, invoices, and any evidence showing different treatment compared to similarly situated non-Freedmen-owned businesses. Possible legal and compliance issues. Depending on the facts, the following issues may need further review: supplier discrimination, unfair trade practices, anti-competitive conduct, group boycott or coordinated market exclusion, interference with business relations, equal contracting access concerns, consumer protection concerns, state attorney general review, Federal Trade Commission review, small business access and market fairness concerns. Again, these are possible areas of review, not conclusions. Each case depends on proof, what the Freedmen community should do. Freedmen consumers should become more intentional about where they spend money. If our community funds the beauty supply industry, then descendants of American slaves should also have a fair opportunity to own, distribute, manufacture, and profit inside that industry. Freedmen entrepreneurs should not rely only on verbal conversations. Put everything in writing. Ask for the reason for denial in writing. Request the account application. Ask for the distributor's written policy. Keep every email and message. Community members should support Freedmen-owned beauty businesses owned by descendants of American slaves where available. Economic protection begins with documentation, ownership, and organized community support. AFLF and FRFT position. The American Freedmen Legal Fund and the Freedmen Reparations Fund Trust view economic exclusion as a serious issue when it affects the ability of freedmen people, as descendants of American slaves, to build businesses, access markets, and compete fairly. This advisory is being issued to educate the community, encourage evidence preservation, and support a more organized response if business owners come forward with documentation. If a Freedmen-owned beauty supply store, salon, distributor, or entrepreneur has experienced wholesale denial, distributor blocking, unusual account rejection, or market exclusion, they should organize their records and submit a complaint through Freedmen Nation. AFLF and FRFT will continue monitoring this issue as part of our broader work around freedmen economic protection, institutional education, and community advocacy. Final community advisory. Do not argue without records. Do not rely on verbal claims alone. Do not let the issue disappear without documentation. Preserve the evidence, identify the distributor, compare the treatment, and build the record. Submit complaints here, 18ply.freedmennation.org/complaints. Get verified at freedmennation.org. Support the work of AFLF and FRFT by donating. Cash App Freedmen Legal Fund, website /mw.freedmennation.org. The Freedmen community must move from consumer dependency to verified ownership, documented advocacy, organized economic leverage, and institutional protection. American Freedmen Legal Fund, Freedmen Reparations Fund Trust, Freedmen Nation,